It's finding the techniques that actually work for you. And every single one of my clients in the past have said that elastic band technique actually does work, and it brings you back into the present. When you're in the present, you have no fear. When you're in the present, you don't actually step out of it. You can only deal with what the problems are here.
Welcome back to the Master Your Business podcast, where we help you crush your professional goals. I'm your host, Deirdre Martin. Today, I am thrilled to share insights from psychotherapist and anxiety expert, Shane Murphy. Shane battled anxiety for years, like so many people, myself included. For me, it crept in 2022. It took a grip of me and my business, and I nearly lost my business because of anxiety. Thankfully, I've overcome that. But Shane's story is incredible. He's faced his fears head on, and he has transformed his life and built a thriving practice specializing in helping others to overcome anxiety and live incredible lives. So today we're talking when you want to go live or maybe even record a podcast episode and you're freaking out with anxiety. We're talking about how to overcome those things. We're talking about the power of authenticity and breaking through that inner critic that tells you you can't. So trust me, if your inner critic is rampant right now and it's saying things like that, this is the pep talk your business and your mind probably needs. So, are you ready to overcome fear and create real change? Buckle up for Shane's story. I promise you, you're going to go away inspired and feeling ready to conquer your world. But folks, before we dive in, please support the show. Subscribe, rate, review. It helps me and the people behind the scenes to spread the word and help more amazing professionals just like you. I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
My name is Shane. You've probably seen me on LinkedIn. I am a psychotherapist and I specialize in anxiety. And one of the reasons I'm really good at specializing in anxiety is that I struggled with anxiety for 22 years of my life. And I know exactly how it feels to have that anxiety and to feel that anxiety. And it really helps with clients because I can just sit with them and hold them. And I suppose also I have my own radio show here in Youghal on CRY 104 FM, where I stream live every second Thursday. I've never not gone live, so we've had plenty of gremlins on board on the radio show, and it still worked out. I really enjoy doing that. I also run Youghal Cancer Support Centre in Youghal, where I look after clients who are struggling with cancer and cancer diagnosis. And in the middle of all that, I also have a life. And that's about me. I suppose a little bit more about me is that I only decided to become a psychotherapist at 40. And up to that point, I'd never done third level education because my anxiety would have stopped me from doing third level education. The negative thought patterns in my head would have said, you can't do this. This is no way you can do this. And I tell you one thing, was one of the most terrifying things of all. The first day I stepped foot into that classroom, and my anxiety is through the roof. And I 5 years later went on, got a university degree in psychotherapy, and here I am 7 years later practicing psychotherapist in my private practice and absolutely love what I do. And as I always say, I could only ever do this at this stage in my life. I could never have done this when I was 30. So that's a little bit about who I am anyhow.
Fantastic, Shane. I love hearing your story because it's such a fantastic story of transformation. And I hear you because I was tipping 40 as well. I was literally either just after hitting 40 or whatnot after starting my business. But I think you're right. Everything in the journey beforehand brings us to where we are today and helps us be better for our clients, because I think that personal experience, having lived it and gone through it, you can't beat that. And it makes you so relatable and authentic when you engage with your clients. But also when you engage online, because you are fantastic, Shane, at putting yourself out there and telling your personal story and really authentically sharing it and not masking it in any way. And I'm sure that wasn't easy to begin with. Will you talk us a little bit about that, about building your brand and your visibility online and putting yourself out there?
Oh yeah, it was hard. I've had the privilege of starting with you, 4 or 5 months ago now at this stage, and it's been an interesting journey. And in one respect, it's great to be able to say that I put myself online, but on the build up and the work in to actually get to that stage, it was very hard to actually put yourself out there. It's very hard to tell your, and I tell my story regularly on the radio, but it's different when you're actually put yourself out there. And when you put your video or your picture or your thought process up online, you know that the world, you don't know how it could go. It can travel anywhere, it could go viral, or anything could actually happen. And lots of people hear your story. And I do see that so often. And I suppose one of the things, I'm a man, and we men struggle so much with expressing their feelings and emotions and showing the world who they are. They really do struggle. It's innate. I'm reflecting on myself, no matter how much, I suppose, being a therapist, and people say to me all the time, "Oh, you've got it sorted." Like, I still struggle with things. I still struggle with, I'd say I'm anxiety clear, but anxiety is a natural emotion. It comes up anyhow for you. It's about not stepping into that fear. And I definitely got a lot of blocks at the start around, is it good enough? Is the standard good enough? All the things you taught me were absolutely fantastic, but it can get a little bit daunting when you suddenly realize, geez, all I want to do is put up a video. And then you have to talk about your brand, and then you have to talk about your brand voice, and then you have to talk about so much more than that. And I 100% understand now why we did it and why we need it and why it's important to actually get at that clear, concise message across at all times, and that it's consistent. And consistency is the key. And I suppose running a cancer support center, running my private practice, having my own radio show, time unfortunately is my biggest problem. So I don't have the time every day to actually post. So then when I started getting organized and I actually had my posts ready to go at least 2 weeks in advance, that really does help as well. But definitely the huge block for me, I can only reflect on me, was that procrastination of, will it be good enough? Will it reach the right people? Because all I want to do within social media really is to get the message out there, because I never realized that I was struggling with anxiety. I thought the way I felt was the way everybody else feels on the planet. And then I read Niall Breslin's book, and I suddenly read it and went, oh, that's what I'm struggling with. I have anxiety. So it was only in that moment that I suddenly actually started changing. And that's why I want to have my message be the land for somebody, and they actually suddenly go, oh, I have anxiety, I want to change. And I can genuinely tell you that I will help someone change, because I'm a present tense therapist. I only deal with the here and now. And if you have to go into any of the traumas that you have in the past, we look at it from now. So you're not so caught up in the feelings and emotions from that trauma from the past. And through my journey with you, with creating that brand awareness and stuff like that, I realized that anxiety is way more than what I have gone through in a personal opinion. It's helping people to actually get out there. Before we came on live, I was talking about my lovely shirts. And I love my shirts. I have 95 shirts in my wardrobe now.
95! That was my reaction, yeah.
And I get up in the morning, and I have a support group that I meet on a Monday morning. And I was recently talking about my shirts, and we're talking about creating that positivity and having that gratitude and having that love for yourself. And how do you get it? And I say, what I do is when I look into my wardrobe and I look at my shirts, and if I'm feeling a little bit off, a little bit sad, not really connecting in, I pick out the brightest shirt that I have and I put it on. And it's like my suit of armor. I put it on, feel good about myself. I look down at myself. I look good. I feel happy. And then when I go out into the world, people say, "Please, I love your shirt." And then I feel better. And by the middle of the day, I'm feeling really happy and really powerful about myself. And that's what works for me. But if I was to talk to Shane 10 years ago, he would have actually said, there's no way. Well, no way we're going to wear bright shirts. There's not a hope. We'd be worried too much about what people are thinking and what is going on. And I generally believe that 90% of the anxiety that people deal with in life at the moment is this negative thought patterns that are in their head. They're controlling what they say and what they don't say. And that all comes across with trying to put yourself out on social media. It's that voice in your head that actually tells you, you can't do it. you're not good enough. You won't be able to succeed at it. So that's my journey. And it's still an ongoing journey with brand awareness and keeping that kind of message, that constant, consistent message out there. So yeah, so my journey with anxiety has been really interesting, and it's been a wonderful journey. And I wouldn't change anything, to be honest. Yeah, I absolutely love the life I live now, but it is hard. And taking that one step, that first step to come into therapy, and to come in and actually talk about what exactly is going on with you is hard. And I reflect on a client that I had that came into me, and he was really stuck in his job, and he didn't know what he was doing or what he wanted to do with his life. He was only a young man in his early 20s, and 3 sessions, and he was touring the world. And he did reflect on it, and he said, geez, a few times in the sessions, Shane, I nearly ran, because you're very direct, you're very honest, and you really tell things for what exactly they are. And that's what makes being a present tense therapist makes it so good, that you're sticking to the here and now. You're directly telling them what things no friend or no family member would actually say to them about what they're doing wrong or what's not working in their life. So it's really powerful to actually step into a counseling room and let me help you to change.
And I want to take you back, Shane, to you talked about procrastination and putting content out there. Will it be good enough? Will it reach the right people? How did you overcome that?
Oh yeah, look, it's procrastination is such a hard feeling to deal with. It puts up so much blocks, and you'll do everything else in your power, bar actually doing what you actually have to do. You'll find something. Oh, I have to do this. I have to do that first, and I have to do this, and you stop. And the only way to get over it is to actually do it. My very first post that I put out on LinkedIn, and I was constantly watching to see all the likes and the impressions and all that sort of stuff. But look, just doing it. If you're coming to therapy to me, I'd be looking at where the procrastination started. So I was able to go into my own head and know where my procrastination started, which was that blocks of, are you good enough? Can you do this? Or even more extreme blocks, like saying, you're stupid, there's no way you can do this. Who do you think you are, thinking that you can actually put yourself out there and you can actually help anyone? You're doing a great job at the moment, Shane, in helping people on a one-on-one basis. But who do you think you are, putting your thoughts, what you think that will actually help people, and putting it out to the world? And I suppose it's one thing that you have to be aware of as a therapist as well, that you might trigger something in someone. I don't go into in-depth stuff that I can actually help people in the room, their anxiety. But for me, it was just literally doing it, putting up a post, doing it, and just walking away. And that's it. I don't want to know how it's going or anything like that. So it's just literally doing it is the only way to get over procrastination, and looking at your blocks. And as I said, I've done an awful lot of self-reflection and looking inwards and actually seeing what I needed to change in myself to take that step forward. And is it totally gone? No, I still struggle. I think there was a day last week where I actually didn't put up a post for 4 days. I was putting myself out there more. I was putting up self-portraits. I did my first video during the week, put up there. All those things are hard to actually put yourself out there to do. No matter how good I am at talking, no matter how good I am at doing workshops and do my own radio show, to actually put yourself out there. And as many a person says, once you put yourself out there on social media, that's it. You can't take it back.
And do you think that's something that stops people from going ahead, as in think that thought of, I can't take this back?
I think that is a massive thing that would actually stop people. It's not really there in the younger people, but definitely people of a certain age, 40 plus, would definitely be worried an awful lot about if they put it out there. And I remember, and there's a young man on this call at the moment, Barry Vaughan, and I remember him saying to me one day when I was talking to him about this procrastination, this block that I have of actually putting myself out there. And he said, you're only human. And if you make mistakes, people will value that as much, if not more, because they know that you're actually only human. You're not just someone. And he said that to me, and it really landed for me. And it doesn't matter if you make mistakes when you put out a video. It doesn't matter that what we're trying to do here with this has gone wrong, and things have gone wrong. They happen. They make it look we're humans. Even you, Deirdre, who you're a marketing entrepreneur, and technical problems should not be something that goes wrong for you. And they have gone wrong today. It's about just going with it. It's like when you were not talking to me there, I was just actually saying things go wrong. And you have a choice to either get anxious, get upset, worry about it, or not. That's as simple as
Absolutely.
that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And Shane, I love that because I do think that's huge for people. I think that fear of I'm going to get it wrong, it's not going to be good enough. Like I said, will it reach the right people? I think another one is fear of being judged.
Mm.
And like those fears can be so fierce, people can't overcome that themselves. You have an added advantage because you are a psychotherapist. You know your stuff and you know how to help yourself get present. But let's say for people who haven't experienced that, who haven't worked with you, what are the top three things that you could say to them if they're really fearful of getting visible, being authentic, and showing up online?
I suppose the one thing is to look at where that fear originated. I suppose for me to be able to see and track back to my childhood and actually see where that fear actually originated. But a lot of people haven't done a lot of work on themselves and stuff like that I would have done. Stepping away from that fear is that judgment, is that worrying about what people think of you, think of what you're actually going to do. So I would say to people to journaling is really important, really powerful to actually do any bit of journaling or something like that and start writing down exactly what your fears are. And when you put your fears on a piece of paper, it really does, it gets them out. And I always talk about journaling, and I know on the younger generation, it's unfortunately they're starting to lose that concept of actually writing. They're all doing their notes on their phone. But the thought coming from your head, moving down along your body into your arm and coming out in the ink onto the piece of paper, that's actually releasing the fears that you have. And that's a key thing. So writing down your fears is so important, and writing down what's actually blocking you. Because when you write it down and you look at it on a piece of paper, you suddenly go, actually, that's not that bad at all. How did I actually think that was actually going to be something? Because when it's murdering around inside in your head, when it's mixed in with that defeatism, that worry that how are people going to see me? How are people going to judge me? What if I do something wrong? When you put that down on a piece of paper, you literally look at it and you go, no, that's not my head. That is not it. And you talk to the other key thing is starting to learn about staying present. And yes, it's very hard to do, especially in the world that we live in, to stay present. But just practicing that presence. I always say to people when I'm talking to them, in any given day, today now, I will probably say at least 100 times, today is the 16th of November. And that grounds you in the day that you're in. It's great about having dates. You ground yourself in your day. And I will mention this at least 100 times to people. I will say, today is the 16th of November. It's only today. There's nothing more we can do about it. Today is the day. So you can't do anything about your fears from the past. You could only work on here and now. Finding a different technique to actually ground yourself in the present. And even the extreme ones that I would suggest to clients of actually putting a rubber band on your hand and flipping it when you actually feel your mind wandering. It's a bit of pain, but it's only a small bit of pain. But it does work. It generally does work when you can find a sensation or something to do to bring yourself back to the present. As I say, Barry's on the call at the moment, and Barry does the plunging into the ice cold baths.
Oh gosh,
Definitely
brave
gets you
man, Barry.
that definitely gets you present.
Yeah.
And it's finding the techniques that actually work for you. And every single one of my clients in the past have said that elastic band technique actually does work and it brings you back into the present. So it's about staying in the present. When you're in the present, you have no fear. When you're in the present, you don't actually step out of it. You can only deal with what the problems are here. That's it. I think those two key things, if you can actually start journaling and really generally start journaling, and I have about 10 different journals. I've a journal for my thoughts that come out. I've journaled for my goals that I'm doing in it. And this fabulous person sent me a lovely little notebook that said, "Be fearless." And I write down all my goals and what I want to do and what I want to achieve in that.
Yeah.
And I have a journal for emotions. What emotions are coming up for me? I sit with them. The biggest problem I see in society at the moment is that we're running away from ourselves. We're running away from our emotions. We're running away from the emotions that we don't want to sit with. That's a more interesting. So I hope I answered your question there, did I?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, what I'd asked you was how can people really overcome that fear? And because you'd said earlier, just do it, but just do it is hard when you're really fearful of all of the things. And so, yeah, journaling can help with this, absolutely. And that can help, as you say, just to summarize what you said, to identify where the fear originates from. And when you put them on paper, it helps release them. Absolutely. I completely agree with that. Sometimes I do this first thing in the morning where I feel overwhelmed and I write down, okay, what's the situation? Why am I feeling overwhelmed? What are my thoughts around this? And then I look at my emotions and think, what are the emotions that are coming up as a result of this situation? And sometimes those thoughts can make it scary, but actually the situation isn't scary. It's the things that you're saying to yourself can make it scary. But when you write them down, it really does help you release them and realize, yes, they're actually not that bad. You're so spot on, Shane. I completely agree with you. And staying present, I love that. I think sometimes that's really hard to do. I find that very hard to do, but just like what you said, that example, I'm going to use that probably every day. Today is the 16th of November. That's when we're recording this live. And yes, things have gone wrong. The Wi-Fi has dropped, the live stream has dropped, all sorts of things have gone wrong. But hey, that's life. And as you said, that's what makes us human. The elastic band technique, I've not heard about that. Is that like tapping, Shane? Tell me.
Yeah.
Is that...
It's like tapping, it is. And you need a sensation to bring yourself back to the present, especially when your mind really gets into that negative thought pattern or gets into that catastrophization, or your mind is actually dealing with the problem of whatever you're supposed to be doing tomorrow or the next day or something like that. And when your mind is wandering off, and it still happens to me, where my mind wanders and I have to bring myself, I go, okay, bring it back to present. And it's a natural thing that we do, that our mind wanders. Our mind wanders off into things that we can't control and we can't fix, but we try to fix it. And there is the tapping, the different parts of your body to release the different tensions, the tapping. Mm-hmm. But the elastic band, it's just that instant feeling that you suddenly go, I'm here. And it's instant, which is brilliant. You know what I mean? Because there's so many different techniques that I actually help people with trying to stay present. But I think the most immediate one is that elastic band. And women can get away with it because they have hair bobbles and they have the hair bobble in their hand and they can use it to look a bit weird. But elastic band is the same color as your skin, so you wouldn't even notice it. Just that flicking, and it's not necessarily tapping, actually a pain. Then it causes a pain in your hand, which brings you back into the now. Because pain will bring you back into the now.
Yes.
I'm not asking people to cause pain or pinch themselves, but just a flick of it, and that instant moment you go, I'm back. Mm-hmm. And even if you can put an association with it to say, I'm back, to bring you back to the now. If you can put an association with it to actually go, for me, I don't do elastic band anymore, but a lot of my clients, I'd say, in the now. And just have that in your mind. When that pain flicks, I'm in the now. And just bring it back. And it does work. And eventually you won't have to use the elastic band, because the elastic band just is in the now. Eventually you will do what I did say this morning when I could feel my mind wandering. I was actually doing my Tai Chi practice this morning and my mind started wandering in the Tai Chi practice. And I just went, oh, go back to now, Shane. Come back to now. Yeah, that's it. And sensations in your body can be really good to help you bring you back to the now. You know, if you get really warm in your room or something like that and your mind starts wandering, when the temperature drops, it brings you back in. So finding sensations within your body to actually bring you back to the present tense is really important, because you feel it, you know it. Mm. Your mind is such a wonderful thing altogether when it's used in the right way.
I know. I think I find it very hard to be present. I'm not gonna lie. I find it, I really struggle with that. And the times that I find I'm most present actually are when I'm horse riding. I have to be present when I'm horse riding. The situation demands it. And part of that is because you're on an animal that's 3/4 of a ton that could potentially kill you if you're not careful. And you're trying to maneuver it and get it to do certain things. And you have to be so conscious, because your brain is trying to understand what the horse is doing and then all of these things. So for me, but what I find is, when I've spent that time outside doing something that really is mindful and makes me be present, I'm like a different person afterwards.
Yeah. But in the present tense, you're you. And what we all should be doing and working towards in our life is to be you all the time. Yes. And when you're doing stuff for you that makes you feel good, You'll always feel good all the time. And we can find these endorphins, we can find these moments in our life all the time. These moments you talk about when you're present. For me, being with a client, I have to be 100% present, because if I'm not, I'll miss something that's vital. Vital. I have to be 100% present all the time. I can't let my mind wander into what it is. And it's taken a bit of work, because on my journey, when I was training in college, I was also had a business, a merchandising business. And there was hundreds, I don't even know how I did, but I know how I did it. I did it because I had anxiety. There's positives that, not positives, but because my anxiety could juggle 150 different jobs. But I noticed when I was in training that when I was sitting with a client, my mind would be wandering into the job I had to do in Tesco right after it, or the other job that I had to do it. So I wasn't present. So it takes time. Everything that we're talking about, this isn't a quick fix, but it takes time. It's work, it's change, it's noticing that change. If you just did the elastic band thing for a month, it's changing. It's starting that process to actually changing. So many people on this planet at this very moment in time are not changing. They're staying stuck in that safe place, the place that they feel safe. But the problem with the place that you feel safe is it starts to get narrower and narrower. It's smaller and smaller until you're just completely confined in. And people have just really gone into themselves too much, gone into their minds, gone into worrying and judging. And I suppose I'm of an age that I don't remember mobile phones and I don't remember social media. And social media, I think I said to you when I first talked to you that I struggle with the fact that I actually am putting myself out on social media when I'd be telling my clients not to be on social media. So it's definitely, and it's still the little devil and little angel in my head is where it goes, okay, I'm spending time on social media, putting stuff up. But one of the key things you said to me was that you only need to spend about an hour and a half on social media. Put up your posts, put up whatever you want, go and look at other people's posts and stuff like that. Like what you want to like, share what you need to share, and that's it. Whereas most people spend 8 or 9 hours on social media, and the social media brings up that judgment, that lack of belief in yourself, because depending on what you're listening to and depending on what the algorithm is putting into you, it's causing that distress and it's causing that pain. I love being a present tense therapist. I absolutely love it. And any client that comes to me who's been to traditional therapy always say to me, "Whoa, this is so different. This is so different." So I'm only teaching them about staying present, present with your feelings and emotions. And it's a really powerful technique to actually do. And yeah, as I say, I'm not perfect. For me to be who I am, I have to work on it every day. I get up in the morning, I have gratitude. I find 30 things to be grateful for before I get into the shower in the morning.
Love that. I love that. And that in itself helps you be present and grounded, Jane, and start off the day on a positive note. And you've touched on a couple of things there that I'd love to circle back on, right? So with social media and showing up on social media, one of the things that we've talked about is authenticity. And we've talked about emotions as well, and showing up and talking about emotions online and feelings, and particularly on LinkedIn, right? Where you might be on LinkedIn thinking, this is a professional platform. It's business to business, typically. I'm not going to show up and talk about my feelings and emotions. But not talking about them masks your authenticity, in my view. What are your thoughts about that?
Again, one of the biggest challenges we have on this planet again is, and I might sound grandeur of people when I'm talking about the planet, but I am talking about the planet because it's a pandemic at the moment of the fact that people don't want to talk about their feelings and emotions, don't want to share how they're feeling. And one of the big things that I say to lots of people about feelings and emotions are, if you're in a relationship, whether it's friends or it's family or whatever is actually going on for you, and they say something to you and you get hurt or you get happy, by the way, or you get whatever's going on for you, you get angry and you don't share it with them, how do they know that they're upsetting you? That's a key thing. And people worry so much about what they say and what impact they say to people is on them. Because in the past, they might have said something to somebody and they got hurt or they got upset or they cried. And you can't, and when someone cries, if you say something to them, that's you not being able to process your feelings and emotions. You know what I mean? It's very complex. Feelings and emotions are extremely complex. And we learn our feelings and emotions from our childhood. And if we come from a dysfunctional childhood, we don't learn our feelings and emotions. We learn to bottle them. So as a child, you could have had parents who were very angry and they might have shouted at you. And from that, you just literally went into yourself and you didn't express yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The mistake we make is, and I'd love to tackle this into schools. The mistake we make as human beings is the techniques that we put into place that have protected us and made us survive our childhood. We bring them into our adulthood. And when we bring them into our adulthood, they don't work. They don't work. We should be able to say to somebody if they've upset us without worrying that they're going to get upset or they're going to get angry or whatever, or I might devastate them. We should be able to say, because one of the great things about being a human being is that we feel our feelings and emotions, and we're all over the place. And that's okay. That's perfectly fine. But we're all different. We're all unique. And what triggers each people for different things is different to everybody else.
Absolutely.
So when you express how you're feeling and show your emotions to other people, they know how they're impacting on you.
Yeah, totally. And I think one of the things that, certainly for me in my own experience is that we didn't talk about emotions at home. It wasn't that I had the worst childhood. It was just that feelings and emotions weren't talked about. And it was a thing where you keep your feelings and emotions for when you're at home, not for when you're out in public. And so what I feel then is you've got a mask on when you're outside. But that mask masks your authenticity. And equally in terms of emotions, and I really think that this is something that's missing from so many brands when they show up online and people with personal brands, is that because they don't talk about emotions, they don't connect as well with their ideal clients, because talking about emotions can make you relatable and empathic. What are your thoughts about doing that in an online way, Shane?
It's what I do. What people see here on LinkedIn, this is who I am. I'm 100% authentic to who I am. I talk very passionately what I'm talking about, but I feel what I'm feeling. And when you turn up as a brand, and when you put a message out there that's not authentically you, it doesn't connect with the audience. People just don't get it. They just pass by it. They don't actually see it. And I suppose that's probably one of the challenges with ChatGPT and Bard. I think you put up a post a couple of recently where you actually said, I do all my contact on ChatGPT. And then people might say, that's not authentic. But then you went on to explain, in my message, I make sure that ChatGPT understands who I am to actually get the actual thing. And I use ChatGPT to put out my message as well. And it definitely speeds things up. And sometimes ChatGPT puts out something and I go, geez, it's in my mind. It knows exactly what I was thinking. It's about being authentic and using the technologies that you have to be authentic, if that makes any sense. You can still do that, because if anybody looks at any of my messages that they see out there, and I might have used ChatGPT for some of them, you can actually see how authentic they are. And what's interesting is I put up a post last week and I just wrote it myself. I just said what I needed to say on myself. I got less impressions for that than I did of the ones that I did with ChatGPT. So I don't know what that's trying to say. Yeah, so stepping into that authenticity, you have to be able to express your feelings and emotions. You have to be real. The problem with masks that people wear in society, different people that say, oh, as a businessman, I'm like this. As a family man, I'm like this. If I'm with my friends, I'm like this. If I'm out on my own, I'm like this. You can't be like that. That gets tiring, by the way.
Yeah.
You don't remember, and then other masks drop into your business mask turns into your family mask, and it just gets so confusing. And it's tiring wearing masks, wearing all these different masks in society. I walk down the street in Yall and someone meets me and they talk to me on the street. I'm me. I'm me as the same person as I am as a therapist. I'm me as the same person I'm on as a radio show. And yeah, there are certain boundaries that you have with certain different things. Boundaries are different. But I'm authentically me. And that's why I'm so good at what I do.
Yes.
Sitting as a client, I'm authentically me.
Yeah, I think, oh my God, you really hit the nail on the head there with that, because I think like those masks, they're like different personas that people adapt, I think. And I can hand to heart say, that was me. That was me when I worked in the corporate world. When I was a bank manager, I had this persona that I created in my mind, thinking that I had to behave in this way or be seen as this person. Whereas now I don't give a
hoot.
Yeah, thank you, Shane. If I wasn't live, I would have said shit. I'll say shit anyway, because look, this is an adult platform.
Yeah.
And I do curse and swear. I don't like to curse and swear personally online when I'm writing content. I might do an F asterisk CK, but that's me. That's the way I speak. I never ever would have spoken like that when I worked in corporate. But when I came home, that's how I talk. That's how I talk to my friends, my family, all that sort of stuff. I had those masks. I had those different personas, and it took me a long time to get out of my way to be able to be me and to find me again so I could be authentic. Have you got any tips that you could share for people with people to maybe help them identify what they can do to really be authentic, and even explain that even further so that answer that question first before I give you like a triple question in one.
I actually am going to answer the question with a reflection I have on what you've said over the last 2 or 3 minutes. And you kept on using the word I think. And when you use the word I think, you're here.
Mm-hmm.
When you use the word I feel,
Mm-hmm.
I hear. Corporate thinking is think. I think this.
Mm-hmm.
I feel. Believe it or not, just actually saying going forward, I feel this way. It makes it more authentic. You have to step into your body when you use the word I feel. And the way we should operate, Eckhart Tolle talks about that we should never think unless we need to think. And he lives his life not thinking. And to a lot of people listening here, that concept is no way, that can't operate. We have, and this has been proven scientifically, and we've all heard this when we were younger, listen to your gut. Your gut actually has brain cells in it. It actually has brain cells that actually uses for thinking. And a lot of the big philosophy, Eckhart Tolle, Bruce Lipton, a lot of the big thinkers would talk about the fact that the only place that you should make decisions from is your gut. And you will be authentic to you when you listen to your gut and when you step into I feel. And it's scary stepping into I feel. It is. If you put all your words to I feel, you really have to listen to your feelings and emotions. And it's hard.
In my head,
anyone listening to this, and I challenge you, Deirdre, to actually start saying I feel more and see what happens.
In my head, I'm saying that I feel, and I can feel my tummy and my gut churning as a result of saying that I feel. Yeah. Oh my God. It is powerful. And so one of the questions I wanted to ask then as an extension of that is, let's say, Shane, you're a personal brand that you're building. You are the anxiety expert. And you help people overcome anxiety for whatever is going on in their lives and in their world or their business and whatnot. But let's imagine that I'm a business owner and you're working with me as a business owner, and I'm ready to take my business to the next level. But I'm just fearful of stepping out of where I'm at now. What would you say to me to help me move forward?
I would start and actually try and actually figure out why you actually feel that you're not actually good enough. Why you feel that you're not good enough. I think that's a key one. You're not good enough to do this. As I've said a few times, it's that negative thought patterns within your head. And as I've said to lots of people about your negative thought patterns in your head, imagine if your negative thought patterns were positive thought patterns in your head. And those ones that tell you that you can't do this, you can't actually step over into this next line, you cannot become what you think you are going to become. Imagine if they were saying, you're brilliant, you're fabulous, Shane, you're a wonderful person, you can do this. And imagine if that was saying that. If you think about the negative thought patterns in your head and think about how many times the negative thought patterns are saying things negative to you in your head on a day, and today the 16th, you'll probably come up with thousands. Imagine if that was saying positive things. Imagine what would change in your mind if that was constantly saying positive things and telling you the positive and wonderful things of who you are. And it's about rewriting the script in your head. You're the only one that can actually fix this, by the way. Affirmations are one of the most powerful things that you could ever do for yourself. I was watching a podcast at the weekend by an absolutely fantastic philosophy, whatever. His name is Wayne Dyer. And if anybody is listening to this and you just want to go onto YouTube, you'll find hundreds. Passed away in 2015. And he is such a powerful person. And when you listen to his talks, you'll be blown away by the things he actually talks about. And one of the things he did say is, I have affirmations all over my house. I have an affirmation as I'm going out the door. I have an affirmation by my keys. I have an affirmation when I wake up in the morning. I have affirmations as well. I'm stuck up in my mirror. I'm brushing my teeth and I'm looking at affirmations. And I will have lists of affirmations of actually what people can do and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, an affirmation has to be personal to you. What I would suggest to that businessman is start creating your affirmations, staying in that positive energy. And it's staying in that positive energy and staying with that gratitude. How grateful you are to have this life. How grateful you are to have what you've achieved so far in your life. And stepping into that gratitude. And there's been lots of different journals and lots of different research done that when you're in gratitude, you're not anxious. When you're in gratitude, you're present. They might sound like small things, but I would be actually working with that client and actually working with his affirmations and getting him to actually believe in himself. We're all so good at saying we're not authentic with ourselves. We're saying, oh, I'm brilliant, I'm fantastic. But are we inside? Are we really that person inside? We're not. So I would do an awful lot of work, not an awful lot of work, being a present tense therapist. It would take maybe 3 or 4 sessions to get them into that. And as you can see how I'm talking passionately about this here.
Yeah.
Authentic about me. I mean, what we're talking about here, Deirdre, it's not scripted. I'm not written in front of me here.
Yeah.
I'm talking from the heart.
Yeah.
And it's about showing and helping people to actually step into that and stepping into their own power. I always use 2 different things when I'm talking to clients, when I'm really trying to pick them up into what they're actually talking about. And one of the things I do talk about is to be the phoenix coming out of the ashes. And I love that metaphor, and I love even visualizing it. As I'm saying it, it's visualizing. I can actually feel the phoenix coming out of the ashes. And that might sound grandeur. At the end of the day, you're fixing you, and that is grandeur.
Yes. Yeah. That's powerful, Shane. Really powerful. And I love that actually, that thought process as well about when you're in gratitude, you're present. And did you say you're positive as well? When you're in gratitude,
you don't have anxiety and gratitude.
You don't have
positive. You're all those things. You are positive when you're in gratitude. As I said to you, I still do it. Get out of bed in the morning, and as I open my eyes, I say, I have huge gratitude for opening my eyes. I have huge gratitude for having a great night's sleep. I have huge gratitude for being able to. Running a cancer sports center really brings it back to what people lose. And it really brings that gratitude back to what you have in your life in the here and now. And to have all out those moments. And I have fun with gratitude in the mornings. Oh, I haven't said I have gratitude for that yet. I'm going to do that. You know?
Love it. I love it. Shane, I could talk to you all day about this, but there's one thing we haven't really touched on, and because the signal went, but it's popping into my head, and I think it's important. You mentioned that you read Niall Breslin's book before, and that's how you realized you had anxiety. And I know this time last year, or a little bit beyond, I was really suffering with anxiety, and I didn't realize it. And for me, it was hormonal. I'm at that age where I'm perimenopausal, heading into menopause. And so anxiety is one of the symptoms that creeps up there. But I didn't know that's what I was experiencing either. I had this physical symptom. And since working with you, since you've been my client and learning about what you do and how you help people, really helped me acknowledge that, yeah, I really was very anxious. But maybe you might just describe what anxiety is in case people are experiencing it and not aware that's what they have.
Yeah, geez. And it's so complex within yourself. It can block so much. And it's all of the above. It's everything. So for me and for a lot of my clients, a lot of their is that stuck feeling. That actually, the best word I learned fabulous things in college, but one of the things I learned was called catastrophization. The way I describe catastrophization is that when you're thinking about something that's happening in the future, and the ending of that thing that you're thinking about in the future turns into a disaster movie, that you know what I'm talking about. If anyone has suffered from anxiety, they know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario. What was interesting actually with the pandemic was a lot of my clients who had anxiety and had that thought process didn't have anxiety after the pandemic, because that was you could never imagine that happening. That happened. They went, oh, sure, nothing. I can't imagine anything else ever happened. Lost their anxiety from it. And one of the big things is definitely catastrophization. It's worrying and thinking about the future. Or I even think of a few of my clients who try to work out all the different scenarios that can actually go wrong in the future. Say they're going to an event. So they go through 100 different things that can actually go wrong, that can actually go wrong in that event. And when they go wrong, they figure out what they can fix that when it goes wrong. And they know how to actually react, which is very tiring trying to figure out. So I say now you're going to, I think of small things for people. And even going to a wedding, we're going to a wedding. And it's going to be loads of people there, and you put on a really nice suit and a nice shirt. But you are worrying about other people judging you and thinking like that. Before you get to the wedding, you're actually thinking about all the things that can go wrong. What if that person says that to me? How am I going to react? What if that person says this to me? How am I going to react? What if I'm asked to stand up and talk? What if so many different what ifs are going on in your mind about what can go wrong and what can't go wrong? That's definitely a huge thing around anxiety, because anxiety is future thinking. But anxiety isn't just future thinking. It's taking regrets and things that go wrong in the past, taking it into the future. Of course, you're skipping out in the present tense. You're just taking everything that went wrong, all the crap things that went wrong in your life and regrets that you have in your life. And you're taking them from there and you're putting them into the future. And that feels in your body, the sensations that you feel when you have anxiety, when you're in that catastrophization, you get sweaty palms, your stomach starts turning, you start getting upset, you get headaches, you get aches and pains in your shoulders and in your necks. Anxiety is such a fearful, and that's why panic attacks come on. Because a panic attack is basically when you're worrying about the future and you actually then start feeling it in your body, and then you get a panic attack. And that's your whole body actually shaking. And a panic attack, an average time for a panic attack lasts about 10 to 15 seconds.
Okay.
People worry so much about panic attacks. It's 10 to 15 seconds. No, it's 10 to 15 seconds of hell.
It probably feels like hours.
Like hours. Would you get someone who say, reflect back to them if they've had a panic attack, say, how long do you think that lasted? And they'll go, geez, that was on for ages. And you say, that was about 20 seconds. And it's just that feeling, and it's that forward thinking, that forward worrying about things. For me, my anxiety, personally speaking, was I used to worry about, one of my big ones was, I used to worry about if I went into a restaurant or a bar, I used to worry about if I go in, is it table service or do I have to go up to the counter to order? If I sit down and it's counter, if I have to go up to the counter, how am I actually going to figure that out? So what actually happened to me was the only way I could go into a restaurant or a bar, this was for years, I had to go in with other people. And if I was in with someone else, but what happened with that was that I only went into a certain amount of restaurants and bars, because I'd never go into a bar or restaurant unless someone went in with me. And Niall Bresman was one of the reasons that I actually started changing. But my story to change for me around anxiety was, I met a friend. She was renovating her house. It was actually a building, renovating the house. She'd windows gone and she'd doors gone. So this was January, February, so it was actually quite cold. It was in the evening. And I was having a look around the house, and then suddenly she got a phone call. She said, I have to go. Should you carry on, look out, and just close out the door when you're going? So I walked around, and then got into my head that somebody outside was going to see me, and then they were going to ask me, why was I in that house, and had I a right to be in that house, and what was I doing, and was I trying to rob the place? And so many different stories came up into my head. So she left at 8 o'clock. I left that house at 2 o'clock in the morning. I had no coat on me, I had no jacket on me. It was freezing. And the thoughts in my head blocked me so much from leaving that house. I got into the car, sweat was dripping off me, even though it was -2.
God.
And I said to myself in that moment, I have to change. I can't live like this. I can't live like this. This is terrible. This is terrifying. And obviously, as soon as I walked out of the house, nobody saw me and nobody said anything. But it's just mad how it freezes you. It is you, that fear of something happening in the future that you are out of your control.
Yeah.
So I don't know, did I explain it there right?
You did, absolutely. And like for me, what the cause of that, and I'm conscious you have to go now, but very quickly, the effect of that on me last year was I was so stuck. I was afraid to put a stake in the ground and call out who I wanted to serve. And the minute that I realized this is because of anxiety, back at Deirdre, go for it. Just go for what's the worst that can happen. Things changed drastically for me and for my business. And I've never looked back. And I think part of that was acknowledging that was anxiety. Anxiety took hold of me it literally took hold of me. And I'd never experienced that before. I'm not an anxious person generally, but it literally took hold of me. So folks, Shane, I know you have to go, but for anybody listening, Shane, what are the final takeaways or tips or anything you want to just say as we wrap up?
Look, it's the message I say to all my clients when I'm going into them. And I ask, do you want to change? Do you really want to change? That story that I was talking to you there, do you want to change you to make you better? And if you make that decision to change, you will change. Because just alone making the decision that you're going to change anyhow. And it's terrifying. It is terrifying to change. It is terrifying to step away from these feelings and some people, anxiety, they've had it all their life. So it's actually a familiar feeling, even though it's shit. You've already said that, I can say it. It's still, it's familiar. I don't know if that makes any sense. It's very familiar, and it's about stepping away into change, stepping into actually letting it go. And it is terrifying, but I can tell you one thing. I would not 10 years, 10, 12 years ago, 15 years ago, could never imagine myself doing anything that I do in my life at this very moment in time. When you change, it's the best thing that will ever happen to you. So just if there's any message I can get across to people out there, and at the end of the day, I don't care who you go to talk to. My sole purpose here is to try and help people to change. And I don't care who you talk to. You go to a different therapist, you go to whoever you want, but take that brave step. And it is a brave step because it's all about you. Take that brave step to change you, because this lifetime, we get one shot at this lifetime. And this lifetime is our lifetime, and we have to live our life to the best and most authentic way that we could possibly do it. So take that leap of faith and change.
Amazing. Shane, oh, you're so powerful. And like I say, I would talk to you all day long. You are amazing. You are the anxiety expert. And I'm going to share all of your links and everywhere where people can find you under the show notes of the podcast. But Shane, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you, Deirdre. It was an experience with all the technical problems, but I think we both stayed very present.
We did.
We both stayed very grounded. And I thank you so much, everybody that has actually listened to me. And all I care is that if there's someone listening to me there and they want to change, that they change. And that's all I care about.
I feel excited and grateful right now, Shane. So there you go. That's my first feeling statement. I feel excited and grateful. So I'll let you go. Thank you again. And thanks everyone for joining and watching today. If you are struggling with anxiety, no, you are not alone. And Shane's journey proves that finding the right support can turn your life around. Reach out, speak up, and keep fighting for the life and the business that you deserve. Small steps lead to incredible victories. So, folks, thank you for tuning in today. If this episode brought you value, help us reach more people by subscribing, rating, and leaving a review. And until next time, stay brave, stay kind to yourself, and never stop working to master your business and your life. Thank you so much.